Hey, this is Chuck Lavazzi, Senior Performing Arts Critic at 88.1 KDHX, and my guest on Chuck's Culture Channel this time around is clarinetist Dana Hotle, who is on the faculty at Washington University and the Webster Community Music School here in St. Louis, but more importantly, one of the founding members of the Chamber Project of St. Louis. We're going to be talking about their upcoming 15th season, but first, here's just a little taste of a concert that they did at the Sheldon Concert Hall back in 2021. Okay, so there you had a little taste of Florence Price's String Quartet and Mozart's Clarinet Quintet as performed by the Chamber Project St. Louis in 2021 at the Sheldon, which is why I have the Sheldon behind me here. And with me now, as I said, is one of the founding members of the Chamber Project, clarinetist Dana Hotle. Dana, welcome to Chuck's Culture Channel.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
And let us talk a little bit about the Chamber Project because I don't know how many people who are watching actually know about your organization. This is your 15th season coming up, but I think you guys have flown under the radar for a long time, which I would like to rectify to the small extent that I can.
Wonderful.
So,
Great.
uh, because your mission is different from that of a lot of other classical music groups, and I'd like you to tell us a little bit about how it's different and why that matters.
Sure. So we started 15 years ago, about
Mhm.
15 years ago. And from the start, we knew we wanted to produce concerts that were a little different from the sort of standard concert where you walk into a beautiful place like the Sheldon, which we do love playing at the Sheldon, but maybe a different venue. Like, what if we play in a bar? What happens if we play classical music in a bar? What happens if we play
Mhm.
classical music in a park? What happens, just this more experimental sort of environment around playing classical music and also to present the programming differently. So not so much just coming in, sitting down, music's played, you clap when you're supposed to do, and you leave. We
Yeah.
really wanted to cultivate something that was a lot more interactive and a lot more passion driven from the artists and musicians that we're playing, that we're really, really like, this is what we want to play. This is how we want to play it. This is where we want to play it. And we wanted to sort of update that concert experience, keeping these traditional things that have worked for a long time and maybe letting go of some of these traditions that may not really
Mhm.
be appropriate for contemporary artists audiences, or maybe a little bit intimidating even to contemporary audiences.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. And we really wanted to have the music, and I think this is probably the biggest thing that we do differently from most other organizations, is we really wanted the music we were playing to reflect our community, to reflect us. And
Hmm.
classical music has a long history in European art music, and unfortunately, excluded from that history often are women and people of color, and um, they don't make it onto the concert stage, even though they existed then and they exist now. Composers and women in the arts, or people of color in the arts. And so
Hmm.
from the start, we have this initiative to represent ourselves on the stage and put that side by side with these, sort of pieces that are historically popular, and create links and themes between those things of the new or the slightly hidden
Hmm.
music and Beethoven. How do we bring them together? And we do that by storytelling and creating a narrative in each program.
Yeah, well, that's kind of one of the reasons I picked that little brief excerpt that we just saw, because there you had something very well known, Mozart's Clarinet Quintet.
Mhm.
But before that, a piece that most people are probably not familiar with by a composer who many are not familiar with, Florence Price,
Yeah.
who, yeah, who is now finally getting some attention. I'm happy to see. I've been hearing her stuff on Performance Today on the radio, and the symphony has some of her work programmed this season, I believe. But really, a very neglected black female American composer.
Yes, and in her time, she found, success as, I'm sure it was quite a struggle, but there was success. But as soon as she passed away and wasn't there to push it, she didn't have a publisher, which
Hmm.
is an atrocity that someone of her caliber wasn't able to get a publisher.
Yeah.
She's now been picked up and is going to be published by a major publishing house, which is a big, I know this is kind of like technical musicy stuff, but that's actually a really big deal because that means all of her
Oh
stuff
yeah.
is archived really well and protected. And it's a really important piece for a artist to get a publisher. And so, but she, was I think a lot of African American singers carried her name through. They would sing her in recital, and the rest of the classical music industry just forgot about her. And so there
Yeah.
has been a resurgence since her music was found. Some of her original manuscripts were found in a house that was being renovated, and they figured out who it was and they gave it to her archive. I think her archive is at Arizona. Oh, I can't remember. It's in
Yeah.
one of the big college universities, Arkansas maybe. Arkansas, because she was born in Arkansas and then moved to Chicago.
Yeah.
And it's her music is absolutely beautiful, and it is of the highest quality, and it's gorgeous, and it should be heard and be considered, one of the great American voices in art. And I'm so glad that she's finally getting some of that recognition
Yeah.
she deserves.
So I
Yeah.
want to return to the things you guys do that are different from what other people do, because as you said, you're sort of breaking down some of these artificial barriers that have been erected between the audience and the performers. I think before we started recording, I said thank you, Gustav Mahler, but the reality is that he is to a large degree responsible for what we currently consider to be concert etiquette these days, where everybody's quiet and no one says, and you don't cough, and then you wait till the end of the concert and applaud. And for most of our history, that's not been true.
Right. It hasn't been true. And that's what happens now at concerts. And we think it's always been that way, but it really hasn't, especially if you look into the history of opera. It was like a party.
Yeah.
These opera
Yes.
performances were like raucous. And, there were people talking. It was a social event. It was very different. And chamber music, which is music for, 2 to 10 musicians at a time, that has always had a history rooted in a social event, and they were held
Hmm.
in wealthy people's homes in the salon, and it was a meeting amongst friends, and people would play. There might be some poetry recited. It wasn't this like really formal rigid concert structure, which has its place, I think, especially in a big symphonic hall. You have all those people together. It's a good idea to have some rules maybe to follow so it's not total chaos. But
Yeah.
at the same time, chamber music has sort of followed that pattern when that's not at the heart of what chamber music is really. And so we have developed a concert format that's much more informal.
Hmm.
There's I mentioned the concerts are narrated, and we have at times like actual conversations with audience members during the narrated parts. Like there can be interaction. Our educational initiative is called a very open rehearsal, which is the rehearsal in which the audience is invited to actually participate in the rehearsal. You're not just watching, but you're
Hmm.
invited to ask questions and be engaged with the musicians and interact very directly with the ensemble, which is really cool. We have one of those on November 3rd, and we'll be scheduling more in the spring, but we do them at libraries, which is a really great place to do them,
Oh
but they
yeah.
schedule only a few months in advance. So we have to kind of wait on some of our
Mhm.
schedules. But we have November 3rd. We're so excited to be back. That was something we couldn't do at all during the pandemic. So we
Yeah.
were really excited to be back with the very open rehearsals. Um, and it's
We
just
should note, by the way, you brought up the pandemic, and the fact is, and this is one of the things I admire that you've done, is that you have some virtual performances on YouTube
we
so
do. And
that the people could watch during the pandemic. A number of organizations did that, and I think that's a great thing too.
yeah, and that, of course, it was hard for everyone, and the performing arts really had to pivot. And we self-produced
Really?
one, and then, yeah, we self-produced one, and then beautifully several venues, including the Sheldon World Chess Hall of Fame, they stepped up and invited ensembles in and produced. I mean, for us to buy $20,000 of camera and learn how to do it, I mean, that's a whole
Oh yeah.
world. Musicians, we don't do that stuff. So it was so great that the community really came together, and there were opportunities for all kinds of ensembles to still connect with their audiences virtually. And now we have these, and they're still up. We just keep our
Hmm.
concerts up. We never charge for our virtual performances. They're always available. If people want to see them on our website, you can get a little taste of how it is. Of course, there's no audience in those, so it's a little bit different. Well, one of them has an audience actually, now that I think about it. But
Yeah.
World Chess Hall of Fame is now doing like a hybrid. I don't know if they're still doing it, but they were last year, which has been so great. And yeah, you can check it out and see kind of what we're all about through those. They're on our YouTube channel, and
Yeah. And as a matter of fact, if you want to see links to all that, look right down here, folks, right in the video description field. You will see all the information, including a link to your YouTube channel. So
great. Thank you.
you got
Yeah.
it all there. So let's talk. It is now the 26th of August as we're recording this, and you've got a concert coming up really soon. So maybe we should talk about that.
Yeah, on August 31st, which is Wednesday night, we're really excited about this venue. And we started doing a lot of outdoor concerts during the pandemic and driveways.
Hmm.
And, we had a great thing in the community gardens for a while, but we are taking that forward and have a new collaboration with Manchester Arts, which is out in West County. And we're going to
Right.
play
I was looking at this.
free,
Yeah.
yeah, a free concert Wednesday night at Schroeder Park, which is pretty close to 141 in Manchester.
Hmm.
If that's a reference point for people. It's a wonderful park, and they have built this beautiful amphitheater, and it's very accessible. And so we're really excited to play a free concert next Wednesday night in a park.
What's on the program for that one?
The program is going to be a mix of, we haven't
Okay.
published that program yet, but it's going to be, we will have it. It's going to be a mix of some favorite things we played from last season, a little sneak peek of things that are coming up this fall, and then just some like big hits that we like. So we have a string quartet, flute, clarinet, and harp all on
Hmm.
the program. And we're going to play a little Samuel Coleridge Taylor, who follows into,
Oh, okay. Yeah.
yeah,
Another
exquisite.
composer we don't hear from very much. Yeah.
Yeah, but an incredible voice, kind of one of those like forgotten voices. We have, let's see, what else is on the program? Oh, Valerie Coleman. She's a fantastic
Oh,
composer. Yeah,
boy,
Valerie,
she is really hot these days, isn't she? Because I see her and I see and hear her stuff everywhere, it seems, like in the
great.
last year or two.
That thrills me. And she was commissioned during the pandemic to write something for Philadelphia Orchestra. I mean, she's
Hmm.
like, yeah, she's hot. She's great. And we've been playing her for years. So again, it's just so thrilling to be like, yes,
You're
it's
on the
getting
cutting
out.
edge. Yeah.
It's getting out there. Let's see what else is on the program. We're gonna have some like Beethoven, a little Beethoven on it. We like to mix it up and
Hmm.
have a Jamaican composer whose last name is Ashbourne. We're gonna play some of
Huh.
his music. He's still alive, of like just a lively little string quartet. And let's see, flute and harp. We're gonna have like an Irish tune and
Oh,
uh,
okay.
Yeah, so it's going to be like pretty eclectic mix of stuff, just sort of like a little sampler platter of what we do.
Okay. And then you've got another one. I'm looking at your calendar here in my other screen. Your next one after that is September 29th. Uh,
Yes.
yeah, flute, harp, and strings music from Latin America.
Yeah, we're so excited to do this. We've occasionally had Latin American composers on our programs, but we're really excited to do like a whole program of Latin American music, and it has a beautiful theme of myth, and the music is like so great. So, and I would guess none of this has been played in St. Louis before of
Mm.
this music. So, the string quartet by Sir Teresa Serrano. Not completely sure I'm pronouncing her last name correctly, but she another forgotten voice, like full
Yeah,
on
okay.
full length string quartet, absolutely gorgeous romantic kind of music. Like if people like kind of that Dvorak sound, it's that Florence
Okay.
Price heard. It's kind of that kind of sound. And then two more contemporary pieces that are just like stunningly beautiful. So anytime you put a harp on stage, it's gonna be good.
Yeah. Yeah. And we should mention that, of course, one of your harpists is Megan Stout, who will be a familiar face and sound to many people who attend the St. Louis Symphony on a regular basis.
Yeah, she plays there all the time. She also plays with
Yeah.
Chamber Music Society all the time. And yeah, it's beautiful. It's gonna be gorgeous.
So you've got a lot of concerts coming up. We don't have time to go into every one of them individually, but I would ask, which ones do you think you would really like to let people know about that you think really are just at the core of what you guys do?
Oh my gosh, that's like the
All of
hardest.
them, right?
All of them. Come to all of them. I mean, everyone is so different there. Everyone is at a different venue. Everyone has a different theme. Everyone has a different mix of instruments on it. You know, we've got our
Okay.
50th celebration at Schlafly Tap Room, retold at the Sheldon. You have the picture of the Sheldon that's going to have like a social justice sort of theme to that.
Oh,
We have
okay.
Yeah, we have two commissions, our commissioning projects. So we have two St. Louis composers, Blake Hurton, who's also known as Concert Black, and Stephanie Berg is going to commission. We are commissioning her for our
Okay,
June
yeah.
program, which is going to be a really cool multimedia event that I can't tell the venue yet, but it's going to be really exciting. That one I'm super excited about. So it's really up to people, like what kind of venue are they comfortable? Most, do they want a more formal setting? Do they want to go to a bar? Do they want something really intimate like the chapel? Um, I can't pick one.
Okay, that's all right. You don't have to. I mean, besides which, everybody just look at the list.
Yeah.
Take a look at the links down at the bottom of this, and you'll see all the information you can possibly use. Um, I guess the last thing I wanted to focus on is that there's another trend that I think you guys are on the cutting edge of, which was doing classical music in very non-traditional spaces. I'm thinking like Le Poisson d'Or nightclub in New York, where musicians would go to do classical music, and that was the sort of thing that was very novel here when you started doing it in St. Louis in places like the Tap Room.
Yeah, it was very novel, and we used to play a lot in little wine bars and little tasting rooms, but now that our audience is much bigger, we've had to
Hmm.
find some larger venues. We do still always try to make it as social as we can. If it's possible to like have a social drink before or after, we try to always include that still. And it really it's lovely. We kind of think of it as like we try to take music to where people already go, so it's not
Hmm.
just you have to come to the concert hall, which is lovely. Concert halls are lovely, but like, you already go here. Let's have you hear some music here at Schlafly, or
Right.
you already go, to the museum. Let's have you check out, that.
Hmm.
So that's kind of
Yeah. And that's very old school if you think about it. I mean, people forget that, for example, Die Zauberflöte was first performed in basically a beer hall. You know,
know that.
one of
But
Mozart's greatest operas performed in a suburban beer hall with people sitting at benches and steins in their hands. So
uh,
yeah, so it's really kind of getting back to basics. It seems to
yeah,
me.
and it takes that I think sometimes people who haven't come to a lot of concerts, but they're classical curious, I kind of call it,
Yeah,
they're
yeah, okay,
a high school band or orchestra, they sang and they're like, oh, I love music, I love movie music, I love this, but I get a little intimidated by all the
right.
rules. and
Yeah.
the locations, these very formal, elegant spaces, do I belong there? And yes, you do. But we also want to break down that barrier a little bit and say, just, come as you are, all levels. You haven't listened to music since seventh grade when you played the flute. We are the group for you.
Yes, I
And
would agree.
we have a plenty of aficionados who come as well because they like our programming because it's so adventurous and different, and they hear things. We play things that they don't hear anywhere else.
Yeah.
So they like that. And the mix of that is like, it just brings me so much joy to have all of that. And we have a wide age range that comes to our concerts. And
This is
so,
also good.
yeah, yeah, it's really fun.
All right. Well, and I can see that enthusiasm in the way you're talking about this, Dana Hotle. Thank you so much for joining me to talk about the Chamber Project St. Louis. And again, check the links at the video description here. And thank you so much for coming. And I look forward to seeing some of your concerts
Thank
this
you.
season. Okay. And that said, this is Chuck Lavazzi for Chuck's Culture Channel signing off. I will see you next time.